which is why like people book calls not because your solution is better, but because you understand their suffering better than anyone else, right? Which is again the thing, right? More than anything, people in this space want empathy, right? Hey everyone, it's Manam, and in today's video we're gonna be talking about how to get high ticket coaching clients by understanding the shadows of people. Really weird concept, and the thing is like everyone is doing the same thing in high ticket coaching space, right? Like how to book 5 to 10 coaching calls with SMS, or like cold calling, or like the best outreach method, or all of these things, right? And when you do that, you have got no edge. And when you have got no edge, people just think of you as everyone else in the niche, which is why the only people who will book calls in that case are gonna be the established people, somewhat like Charlie Morgan, right? Which is why like in this video, this is gonna be your edge, because it's based on psychology and not many people are talking about it. In fact, almost no one is talking about it, right? Because it's not surface level, and like people don't even think about this thing, right? So overview of the video. So what you're gonna get out of this video is like how to beat 99% of your competition, book more calls. How you're gonna do that? By differentiating yourself using the shadows of people, right? And that will happen once you understand what the concept of shadows of people actually is, right? So let's begin with it, right? So understanding the shadows of people, right? So it's a concept from Carl Jung, right? And it's called like shadow archetype. But before I even tell you like what shadow archetype is, you first gotta understand what an archetype is. So archetype means inherited patterns of thoughts and behavior that exist in collective unconscious of people, and influences of how humans perceive and react to the world, right? Basically, in everyone's unconscious mind, these are like thoughts and behaviors, right? And influences how we act and like react to the world. So like it was kind of not really important for you to understand, but still, so there are like 4 major types of archetypes, and today we're going to discuss the shadow archetype and learn how to leverage this and become a literal killer at client acquisition as a high ticket coach, right? So let's begin with the thing, right? Open your mind, like full screen the video or whatever, and let's just begin with it, right? So understanding the concept of shadows of people. Well, what is a shadow, right? The shadow is the hidden part of yourself that you deny, avoid, or repress because it contradicts of how you want to see yourself. Really easy, right? I mean, in easy words, shadows are parts of yourself that you don't want to admit it exists, right? Why? Because like, let's just say like you are a high ticket coach, right? And I tell you that you do not help your audience change their life. Would you want to accept it? Probably not, right? But we're going to understand what this concept is. Really important thing, these parts of you are not necessarily evil or negative, but just unaccepted or unapproved part of yourself, right? So like when I just gave you an example, you probably have gone into like a defensive mode that, oh, I'm serving my audience or whatever. But these necessarily are not negative, right? These are just like your hidden powers that you don't know yet exist. And like I'm just gonna tell you how to use it in your content and book more calls through like using shadows in your videos and booking more calls, right? But why do these shadows exist in first place, right? So imagine this: when you were born, right? An empty bottle, right? And what happens is like your parents teach you a few things, right? So like, don't be angry, or like be polite with people, or don't be selfish, or don't brag, or be humble, right? All of the right things, like if anyone is parent, this is what they're going to teach to their children, right? But what happens is like now you start following what they taught after you rationalize it, right? So you probably might say something and also follow it, like, I'm not gonna be angry from now on, or I will not brag, and you try your best to not do it, right? What starts happening is like you follow what you said you were gonna do, but also like you start suppressing the opposite energy of it, right? So for example, like I'm gonna tell you like what do I mean by energy, but let's just say like this for you, right? So you follow that, you will not get angry, you will be polite with people, you will not be selfish. By the way, if you're a high ticket coach, you don't want to use all of this psychology and learn it for yourself. You know who to book call with, right? So just do that from the link in the description, right? But you also start suppressing the opposite energy of it, right? So when you say that you will not get angry, you start suppressing anger, right? When you say that you're gonna be polite with people, you start suppressing your ambition. And I'm gonna tell you how ambition came here, right? But understand that when you follow things, the bottle is empty, right? When you start suppressing it, it start getting filled, and this bottle is basically your body, right? And when it's get filled to some limit, either you explode, or you learn how to have like these emotional outlets through which you let these, like space get bit more empty, right? And like that is how space is created. But let me just give you an example. When a child is told that don't brag or don't show off, what the child suppresses is not talking loudly, right? What they suppress is the inner desire for recognition, right? Because like if I brag to you that I make like $5,000 a month, right? The thing is like I'm not just like showing off. I'm just, like it's just my desire for recognition or validation that is coming out of my mouth, right? So when they suppress this inner desire for recognition, what happens is like their ego. So like recognition is made of their ego, pride, and identity building, right? So later in life, they hide their achievements. They feel weird about receiving compliments, right? They hate people who show confidence, and they downplay on their wins, right? Because like maybe they have judged people for that thing, right? And just because they judged people for like showing off, they despise that thing because that is what they were told, that you should not brag, right? And which is why like this bottle starts getting filled, right? And like they start doing all of this, right? But internally everyone wants admiration, right? Everyone wants validation, right? And they want to feel special, right? Which is why like the hidden desire of admiration or like validation, it becomes the shadow ego, right? So showing off is not equals to ego, but suppressing the need to be seen is equals to shadow ego, right? So whatever you reject goes into shadow, right? And this is the thing like which is, so this is the mask that people wear, this is the consciousness behind the mask, and this is the shadow controlling them from the dark if they are not conscious of it, right? So shadow is equals to repressed emotions plus drives plus traits, right? And by now you probably must have understand the basic concept, but let me just give you a quick example, right? So socially acceptable thing is like be nice, be helpful, be humble, be disciplined, be confident, right? But shadow version is angry and aggressive, right? And might be selfish and dominant, and against of humble it would be probably like proud and hungry for status, right? So shadow becomes a part of you that lives in dark and controls your action until you face it, right? So if you do not face it, it's gonna control you from unconscious. So which is why like there is a Carl Jung quote which says that until you make your subconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate, right? Which is why like you have to become really conscious of your shadows. They are your hidden power to some degree, right? It's not always negative or evil. There will be guaranteed a hidden power in your shadows, right? So like for a second just remove booking calls from this concept, just also like kind of improve it, like improvise it in your own life, right? So this is again like the thing that I just told you, but like this will control your actions until you face it, right? And I'm gonna tell you like how to do it. So shadow shows up in two ways, right? So it shows up in like things you judge and things you secretly want but won't admit, right? So things you hate and judge, like something that you dislike in others or what you deny in yourself, right? Example, you judge showing off to people, as I said before, but you secretly crave recognition, right? You hate lazy people, but you're scared of laziness in yourself, right? You dislike rich flex people, as I just told you, but you want resource and power, right? Like, um, so just to give you an example, like Andrew Tate was judged for, like showing off his cars or whatever, but at the end of the day, like everyone wants power and resources, right? So things you secretly want but won't admit. So these are like shadow desires, which is basically like power, money, respect, validation, attention, and all of these things, right? So introspect in yourself and understand like which one is it, right? Everyone at least have one, right? So these are like common shadow traits objectively. So it would be like desire for power, desire for dominance, at least for guys, right? Desire to be worshipped or admired, desire to be superior, pride, envy, fear of judgment, fear of rejection, laziness slash avoidance, self pity, victim mindset. This one is really big, bro. Like having victim mindset. I mean, I have had few clients in the past, and to really get them past this thing, like really telling them that you are just making yourself villain in your own story just to make your story look better. It is like really, like important one that like you should take care of. And then it's like narcissism, and then we have like rage, fear of failure, or need for validation, right? And also positive hidden traits. Now, as I told you, like there would be hidden powers also, so face it, right? Introspect and understand which one are your hidden powers, right? Which could be like leadership, confidence, ambition, charisma, creativity, inner strength, self-love, and like desire to shine. Self-love, is that a positive hidden trait? I don't know, but yeah, like here's a quick diagram to, like you can pause and read. But again, like shadow isn't ugly, right? It's just a raw energy waiting to be used, right? Yeah. So how to recognize the shadow? Objective steps. Before you do it for your audience, I would suggest doing it for yourself, right? So people reveal their shadow through what they criticize, right? So if they attack something emotionally, it's their shadow. So for example, like if I judge people for flexing their cars, it's probably my shadow, right? That I want more power and resources, right? And the second way that people reveal their shadow is what they envy, right? So envy is equals to shadow desire. Again, like just to give you like a Tate example, most people did not like his car color, right? Which is why like it was a shadow desire. Then third thing, what they fear being seen as. Example like, I don't want to look stupid, so shadow becomes insecurity, right? Then like another example is like, I don't want to seem arrogant, so shadow becomes the desire for recognition, right? And I don't want to fail publicly, so shadow becomes pride and ego. This one is really big. I should just like bold it, right? um I would say like even me to some degree, I have this thing, right? I have pride and ego, and you should also like understand that 90% of you watching would have this thing that you're scared of failing publicly because you are attached to your pride and ego, just like me, right? I am also to some degree, right? Then fourth thing is like what they worship blindly, right? So strong admiration also reveals the shadow desire, and this one is like really really good. So if someone is like obsessed with billionaires, they are probably have desire for power slash status, right? I mean, like to some degree the desire for money goes away, right? But like desire for power and status, it's intangible, which is why like it is really difficult to become conscious of this desire and kind of kill it, right? Because like any kind of desire, if you're attached to it, at the end of the day it becomes a really big reason for your downfall, right? But got off the topic. But again, like another example is like worshipping bodybuilders, then it's like desire for strength and dominance, right? So this is basically how like shadows work. I would say like re-go through this thing before we move on to the next part on how to book calls for your coaching business from this concept, right? So use the psychology of shadows to book more calls, right? By the way, if you're a high ticket coach, you don't want to use all of this psychology and learn it for yourself. You know who to book call with, right? So just do that from the link in the description, right? So this is the person that you're trying to sell, and if you have watched my videos, every single video I have this diagram, right? Which is like they are built on their traumas, desires, beliefs, latent triggers, and infinite more things, right? So when this person watch this video, they do not watch the video with a mask, right? Because like I'm gonna tell you why it is, but understand that they do not watch the video with a mask, which says that I want to grow my business, I want more clients, or I want to be disciplined, right? They are not watching the video from this mindset. That is surface level, right? The one people probably talk about. But whether or not they book a call with you is decided by their deeper self or shadow self, right? So as I told you, like most of you, even me to some degree, like we are unaware of our shadow, which is why like it controls us from the dark, and we think that we are making decision consciously when in reality it's unconscious decision, right? They take action from this place, right? The one that they won't admit exists, right? So people buy with their shadows, not with their conscious, moral, rational mind, right? So the thing is like the reason people don't wear a mask while watching the video is because like they are not fear of being judged, right? The reason people wear mask is because like they are scared of like there are more reasons, I'm sure of it, but like one of the main reasons is like people are scared of being judged, right? Which is why like when they are alone, they know that they are not gonna get judged, right? So when you say something like you are not disciplined and you are fat in the video, they are gonna accept it to some degree or understand it that yeah, you are right, because they don't have like they're not getting judged by anyone for that, right? But again, like, this is their normal self. So this is the person that every other coach is talking to, and probably you also, right? And like, do not get defensive, probably you are, right? Now this is their shadow self, right? People don't understand this, but this is the one who take action, right? Whether it is to book calls or anything else. So you have to talk to this person instead of this person, right? And this is the value of the video, right? Understand that the whole concept of shadows that we learned, people are like gonna take action from this part rather than this part, right? So do not talk on surface level, just talk to their like deeper self, right? So here's the truth, what they say, right? They say that they want freedom, they want consistency, they want clients, they want system, they want impact, right? So this is this part who is gonna say it, right? So this is their like original part who is gonna say that they want freedom, right? And this is what they actually want, right? They want power to feel superior than others, right? They want respect to finally be recognized. They want revenge to prove people wrong. They want validation to be admired. They want status to be that guy. Just like, I have done my whole research. Like before this video, I have created shadows on you guys. And one of the things that you want is status, right? You want to be that guy in your niche, right? So you say that you want clients or system, that is all BS to some degree, right? You want status, you want to be that guy in your niche, right? So another one is like to not be a loser in front of others, and then it is like to feel like they matter, right? So this is really the most important part. This is the part that is gonna book you insane amounts of calls. Do insane research on your audience and understand like what they truly want behind their shadows, right? So how do you do it? Well, I would say like go to like some website and see like if you can copy the link from this video, like get a transcript of this video, put it into ChatGPT, let them understand the concept of shadows, then put a Carl Jung book into the ChatGPT, upload it into it, and ask them, like give them your offer deck, give ChatGPT your offer deck, give it everything, and like ask him like what is the shadow of my audience, right? Now no one admit these things, right? But these are the things that move human behavior, right? So once you start understand this, once you understand this, you start speaking to the human mind behind the mask, right? Not the mask, as I told you, that you want to speak to this person, right? You don't want to speak to this person. So if we go back down there, this immediately makes your content magnetic, right? As I told you before. So they will feel like this guy understands me better than I understand themselves. And this is true, bro. Like, if I go and show you, I got this message, right? I mean, like, believe me, I'm just 19, and this guy was like maybe a decade older than me, and yeah, he was also big on psychology or philosophy, right? And he asked like, where did you got all your knowledge from? So kind of compliment, right? I just wanted to brag, but whatever, So that's when they start trusting you, and trust is only the thing that is gonna make someone book call with you, right? But the caveat is people want to be seen, not exposed, right? If you expose their shadow directly, they will run away or deny it because they will feel attacked from your side, right? Which is why, like, while persuading people, again, like, um, I did not really give a warning in this video. Not use this knowledge unethically or it will backfire you 10 times harder, right? I'm telling you this again and again, right? But again, back to the topic, the thing is like, to really persuade people, you have to stand beside them, right? If, like, you just basically have to confirm their suspicion, right? Which is why, like, like in marketing or copywriting, everyone use this famous phrase, which is like, it's not your fault. 90% of the time it's their fault, right? So anyways, so the thing is like, if you mirror it subtly, they lean in, otherwise they will run away or deny it, right? So example, instead of saying like, bro, you want clients so you can feel powerful, I get reminded of this one thing. There was this one person who DM'd me, and he said like, hey, do you have clients? And I said like, yeah, I do have. And he probably said that, or he said that you probably wouldn't have more than two, and he was challenging me, and I just had like one client, but I denied it, right? I said like I had 5 clients, right? So yeah, I mean, like, like you were just like attacking some of my emotion, probably ego, I don't want to accept it, but it was, right? But anyways, So instead of saying that, bro, you want clients so you can feel powerful, you say, isn't it funny how you say that you want a business, but what you actually want is to stop feeling like you are behind everyone around you, right? So immediately the shadow self perks up, right? You're speaking in a language that their public self avoids, and once they feel understood at that layer, they don't compare you with Charlie Morgan, right? They don't compare you with anyone, right? Which is why, like, I told you that in the beginning, this video is gonna be your edge, right? You're gonna speak to their unconscious once you understand this concept and use it in your videos, right? So people always move towards the person who understands their shadows better than they understand their shadows, right? So quick example, surface problem is like, I don't know how to get clients, really common, you know. But the shadow problem is like, I'm scared of being seen as failure, or I want to be seen as someone who people admire, or I'm tired of being invisible. Look, to solve the problem, you have to solve this thing, right? But to make them book calls, you have to talk to them at this level, right? Because again and again, emotional thing is what will book your calls, right? Not rational things. Like, understand this thing, right? So when your content reveals the real problem that they didn't even admit, you create instant authority, right? Why? Because in their mind, if the guy named the exact thing that they couldn't name themselves, he probably also knows the solution I couldn't find for myself, right? So which is why, like, people book calls not because your solution is better, but because you understand their suffering better than anyone else, right? Which is again the thing, right? More than anything, people in this space want empathy, right? Which is kind of what, you know, like, what is a relationship between therapist and its client, right? But again, like, use it ethically, bro. Like, I cannot stress on this enough, or it will fire you back, right? But yeah, that was it for the video. If you like it, there is a button for it below. If you want to subscribe, you can. And, you know, really important, if you have an idea on which you want me to create video on, let me know, and if I can, I will, right?